The unexpected challenge, Diana. Alina Rodriguez stood in the center of the crystal throne hall, her simple, earth-made clothing a stark contrast to the magnificent architecture surrounding her. The Corinthian palace was a marvel of engineering, with walls that seemed to grow from living crystal, refracting light into 1,000 rainbow patterns. Floating platforms moved silently through the air, carrying nobles whose crystalline exoskeletons caught and scattered the ambient light like living prisms. She clutched her datapad tightly, knowing that the information it contained could save thousands of lives. The Corinthian children's plague had been spreading across their empire for months, and their own healers had reached the limits of their knowledge. That's when they had reluctantly reached out to humanity, the newest members of the Galactic Council. Your Imperial Majesty, Alina began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast hall despite her nervousness. Emperor Veltar sat upon his throne of living crystal, his massive form radiating an aura of ancient authority. His 4 arms rested gracefully on the throne's arms, and his compound eyes regarded her with what she hoped was interest rather than disdain. "The human speaks," rumbled a voice from beside the throne. General Thaxma, commander of the Royal Guard, stepped forward. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, his crystalline exoskeleton gleaming with ceremonial engravings that told the story of 1,000 victories. His forearms were each the size of Elena's entire torso, and energy weapons hung from his ceremonial harness. "Let us hear what primitive wisdom she offers." Alina ignored the insult and activated her datapad. A holographic projection filled the space before the throne, showing molecular structures and medical data. "Your Majesty, our research teams have been studying the plague affecting your children. We believe we've identified not just the cause, but a potential cure." The assembled nobles stirred with interest. Alina could hear the soft chiming sounds they made when excited, like wind through crystal formations. She pressed on, knowing she had their attention. "The pathogen is unlike anything in human space, but it shares certain characteristics with diseases we've encountered on Earth. Our immune systems developed specific responses to similar threats over millions of years of evolution." She manipulated the hologram, showing viral structures and antibody responses. "We believe human antibodies, properly modified, could provide immunity to your people." Emperor Veltar leaned forward. "You speak of giving our children human blood. Not exactly, Your Majesty. We would synthesize the antibodies in our laboratories and create a vaccine specifically designed for Corinthian physiology. Our preliminary tests on tissue samples show a 97% success rate." The throne room erupted in excited chimes and whispers. Alina allowed herself a small smile. She had spent 6 months preparing this presentation, working with the best xenobiologists humanity had to offer. They were so close to establishing a real partnership with the Corinthians, one that would benefit both species. That's when General Thaxma's voice cut through the celebration like a blade through silk. "Impossible." His 4 fists slammed against his breastplate in unison, creating a sound like thunder. "The human claims that her inferior species can succeed where the greatest healers of the Corinthian Empire have failed. This is not medicine, it is insult." Alina blinked in surprise. "General, I meant no insult. I'm simply presenting our findings. You stand before the crystal throne and declare that human science surpasses 5,000 years of Corinthian medical knowledge." Thaxma's exoskeleton began to glow with an inner light, a sign of extreme agitation that Alina had read about but never seen. "You diminish our healers, our traditions, our very heritage with your arrogant claims." General Thaxma, Alina said carefully, I'm not claiming superiority. Evolution gave each species different advantages. Humans faced different diseases on Earth, so we developed different immunities. It's cooperation, not competition. But Thaxma was beyond reasoning. His cultural programming, built over millennia of warrior tradition, could not process what he saw as a fundamental challenge to Corinthian honor. You dare suggest that your mongrel species possesses advantages that we lack? That we, the conquerors of 100 worlds, the masters of crystal technology, need the help of creatures who have barely left their home system? Emperor Vel raised one of his hands, and the throne room fell silent. General, the human's proposal has merit. If it can save our children, Your Majesty, Thaxma interrupted. Something that would have been unthinkable under normal circumstances. This goes beyond medicine. This touches the very core of who we are as Carathians. If we accept help from humans, if we admit they possess knowledge we lack, what becomes of our place in the galaxy? What becomes of our honor? Alina realized she was witnessing something far more complex than a simple medical consultation. This was about pride, about identity, about the fear of being surpassed by a species the Corinthians had considered primitive. She had studied their culture extensively, but reading about warrior honor was different from seeing it in action. I challenged the human to trial by combat, Thaxma declared suddenly, his voice carrying the weight of absolute ceremony. Let the blade dance decide whether her words carry truth or blasphemy. If she truly believes in the superiority of human knowledge, let her prove it with her life. The throne room fell dead silent. Alina could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. She knew about Corinthian trial by combat from her cultural briefings, but she had never imagined she would face it herself. It was an ancient tradition dating back to their earliest history, designed to settle matters of honor when words were insufficient. Emperor Veltares' compound eyes focused on Alina with laser intensity. The challenge has been made in proper form, Dr. Rodriguez. You may decline and withdraw your proposal, or you may accept and face General Thaxma in combat. The choice is yours, but know that decline will be interpreted as admission that your claims were false. Alina's mind raced through the implications. If she declined, not only would she lose the chance to help the Corinthian children, but humanity's reputation in the Galactic Council would be severely damaged. They would be seen as cowards who made grand claims but couldn't back them up. On the other hand, accepting meant facing a trained warrior who had spent centuries perfecting the art of combat. She thought about the children dying on Corinthian worlds, their crystalline bodies racked with fever as the plague consumed them from within. She thought about the mothers who had sent desperate messages to the Galactic Council, begging for help when their own healers had given up hope. She thought about the potential partnership between humans and Carathians, all the good they could do together if they could just get past this moment. She also thought about her grandfather, who had survived the Mars colony disasters when the terraforming equipment failed and 2,000 colonists were trapped in a toxic atmosphere for 8 months. He had taught her that sometimes the most important battles weren't won with weapons, but with the courage to try when everyone expected you to fail. Alina straightened her shoulders and looked directly into General Thaxma's compound eyes. I accept your challenge, General, but I have one condition. The General's exoskeleton flared brighter. You are in no position to make demands, human. Not a demand, Alina said calmly. A request. When I win, you will allow our medical team to Begin treating your children immediately. The throne room erupted in shocked chimes and whispers. No one, not even seasoned Koratheon warriors, spoke of victory against General Thaxmer with such casual confidence. He had never lost a duel in 3 centuries of service to the crown. General Thaxmer's 4 hands moved to his weapons with practiced ease. Your confidence will be your death, Dr. Rodriguez. Very well. I accept your condition, though it will never matter. The combat will take place at sunset in the Grand Arena. Traditional. Weapons only. Combat continues until yield or death. As the general stalked away to prepare, Alina realized what she had just committed to. In 6 hours, she would face one of the most dangerous warriors in the known galaxy in single combat. She had no formal combat training, no enhanced physical abilities, and no experience with Korathian weapons. What she did have was a lifetime of human ingenuity, a deep understanding of Korathian physiology from her medical research, and the desperate determination of someone fighting for the lives of innocent children. Ambassador Chen appeared at her elbow, his face pale with worry. Alina, what have you done? Thaxmer has killed hundreds of opponents in formal duels. He's a master of 17 different fighting styles. This is suicide. Alina looked around the crystal throne room, noting the way light moved through the Korathian architecture, the way their technology interfaced with their biology, the patterns of movement in their ceremonial dances. Everything was information, and information was her weapon. Maybe, she said quietly, but sometimes the best way to prove that humans deserve respect is to show them what we're willing to do to earn it. Besides, I didn't spend 6 months studying Korathian physiology just to cure their children. I learned a few other things along the way. As the sun began its descent toward the crystal spires of the Korathian capital, Alina Rodriguez prepared to face the greatest challenge of her life, armed with nothing but human determination and the hope that sometimes knowledge really was more powerful than strength. The duel and its aftermath at Grand Arena was a masterpiece of Korathian engineering, carved from a single massive crystal that had been shaped and molded over centuries. As the sun set behind the spires of the capital city, the crystal walls came alive with internal light, creating a spectacular display that served as both illumination and artwork. Thousands of Korathians had gathered to witness the unprecedented duel between their greatest warrior and the strange human who dared challenge their honor. Alina stood at the center of the arena, wearing the simple combat gear that had been provided. To her, Korathian weapons felt alien in her hands, the energy sword humming with barely contained power. Across from her, General Thaxmer moved through his pre-combat ritual, 4 arms weaving an intricate pattern as he activated his ceremonial weapons. His movements were hypnotic, flowing like water despite his massive size. Emperor Veltar's voice echoed through the arena from his observation platform. Let all witness this trial by combat. General Thaxmer defends the honor of the Korathian Empire. Dr. Alina Rodriguez represents the claims of humanity. Combat begins at the sound of the crystal bell. Alina closed her eyes and tried to center herself. She had spent the afternoon in the palace archives, studying combat footage of previous duels. Thaxmer's style was beautiful and deadly, combining acrobatic movements with precise weapon work. He could manipulate his exoskeleton's density, making himself harder to damage, and his forearms allowed him to attack and defend simultaneously from multiple angles. But Alina had noticed something else in the footage. Korathian combat was highly ritualized, following patterns that had been perfected over millennia. Their warriors were trained to expect certain responses, certain rhythms of attack and defense. They had never faced a human in combat before. The crystal bell chimed, its pure tone cutting through the arena like a blade. Thaxma launched himself forward with incredible speed, his four weapons creating a whirlwind of energy around him. Alina barely managed to dodge the first strike, the energy blade passing so close to her head that she could feel the heat. She stumbled backward, raising her own weapon defensively. The crowd chimed their approval as Thaxma pressed his attack. This was what they had expected. A quick demonstration of Korathian superiority, followed by the humans' inevitable surrender or death. Alina parried desperately, her single blade barely keeping up with his four weapons. "You fight well for a primitive," Thaxma called out as he drove her back toward the arena wall. "But you cannot match the blade dance of the Korathian royal guard." Alina said nothing, saving her breath for survival, but she was learning with every exchange. Thaxma's attacks followed classical patterns, beautiful but predictable once you understood the underlying structure. His footwork was precise, placing him in optimal positions for the next move in each sequence. She let him drive her into what appeared to be a corner, her back nearly against the crystal wall. Thaxma raised all four weapons for a finishing strike that would end the duel with spectacular flair. That's when Alina did something no Korathian warrior had ever done in formal combat. She threw her weapon at him. The energy sword spun through the air like a glowing discus, not aimed at Thaxma himself, but at the crystal wall behind him. When it struck, the wall's harmonic frequency was disrupted, creating a resonance cascade that sent painful vibrations through every Korathian exoskeleton. In the arena, Dotsok's single quotes more staggered, his own exoskeleton ringing like a struck bell. Alina used that moment of disorientation to close the distance between them, not to attack, but to speak. "General," she said quietly, her voice carrying just to his audio receptors, "your exoskeleton is beautiful, but it has a design flaw that your people have never recognized." Thaxma tried to bring his weapons to bear, but Alina was too close for him to use them effectively without risking injury to himself. "What are you talking about, human?" "The harmonic resonance frequency of your exoskeleton is directly tied to your nervous system," Alina explained, circling slowly around him. "It's how you interface with your technology, how you feel through your armor. But it also means that the right frequency can overload your sensory input." She pulled a small device from her belt, something that looked like a medical scanner but had been hastily modified. "I spent this afternoon in your medical archives, studying Korathian physiology. Your people are incredibly resilient to physical damage, but your nervous systems are actually quite delicate. They have to be, to interface with all that crystal technology." Thaxma's eyes widened as he realized what she was holding. "You would use our own medical knowledge against us." "I would use knowledge to save lives instead of taking them," Alina replied. She activated the device, and a subsonic pulse filled the arena. To human ears, it was barely noticeable. To Korathians, it was overwhelming. THX, single quotes, more fell to one knee, his weapons clattering to the crystal floor. Around the arena, Korathian spectators swayed as their exoskeletons resonated in harmony with the pulse. It wasn't harmful, but it was completely incapacitating. Alina walked over and picked up one of Thaxma's fallen weapons, then placed its edge against his neck in the traditional position of surrender. The arena fell silent except for the hum of her device. "I yield," Thaxma said quietly, his voice carrying clearly through the crystal acoustics of the arena. The human has defeated me through superior knowledge and strategy. Alina immediately deactivated her device and knelt beside the fallen general. Are you injured? I calculated the frequency to cause disorientation without permanent damage, but I've never tested it on a living subject. Thaxma looked up at her with something that might have been respect. You could have killed me. The resonance cascade, if pushed to the right frequency, would have shattered every exoskeleton in the arena. That was never the goal, Alina said, offering him a hand up. I came here to save lives, not take them. The duel was about proving that human knowledge has value, not about proving that we're better killers than you are. Emperor Veltar's voice boomed across the arena. Dr. Rodriguez has won the trial by combat through superior knowledge and strategy. The honor of humanity is established. General Thaxma, what say you? The general struggled to his feet with Elena's help, his massive form still unsteady from the harmonic disruption. He looked around the arena at his people, then back at the small human who had defeated him without striking a single blow. Your Majesty, he said formally, I was wrong. The human did not insult our honor by offering to help our children. She honored us by sharing knowledge that could save lives. I withdraw my objection to the medical alliance. The arena erupted, in the harmonic chiming that indicated Corinthian approval. Alina felt her knees go weak with relief as the adrenaline finally began to fade. She had done it. The alliance would proceed, the children would receive treatment, and humanity had earned a measure of respect in the galactic community. But Thaxma wasn't finished. He turned to address the crowd, his voice carrying the authority of his position. I have learned something today about the nature of true strength. The human could have chosen weapons that would kill, but she chose knowledge that preserves life. She could have humiliated me in defeat, but she offered aid instead. This is the kind of warrior I would be honored to serve alongside. Emperor Veltar descended from his platform, his massive form moving with regal grace. When he reached the arena floor, he approached Alina directly. Dr. Rodriguez, your actions today have demonstrated that humanity possesses qualities we value: courage, intelligence, and honor. The Corinthian Empire would be pleased to establish formal alliance with your species. Alina bowed deeply in the Corinthian style. Your Majesty, humanity is honored by your offer. We look forward to a future of cooperation and mutual respect. As the crowd began to disperse, Thaxma approached Alina once more. Doctor, I must ask, how did you know about the harmonic vulnerability? That knowledge is not in our public databases. Alina smiled. It wasn't in the medical files either, not directly. But I spent months studying tissue samples from your children, learning how your nervous systems interface with your exoskeletons. When I realized that the same neural pathways that give you such precise control over your technology could be overloaded, I had to test the theory. You risked your life on an untested theory. I risked my life on the knowledge that sometimes understanding your opponent is more important than overpowering them, Alina replied. Besides, I had backup plans, lots of them. Humans are very good at backup plans. 3 months later, the first shipments of human-synthesized vaccines arrived on Corinthian worlds. The children's plague was eradicated within 6 months, and the partnership between humans and Corinthians grew into one of the strongest alliances in the Galactic Council. Alina Rodriguez became the first human to receive the Corinthian Order of Crystal Honor, awarded to those who demonstrate exceptional courage in service to the Empire. But more importantly to her, she received thousands of messages from Corinthian parents thanking her for saving their children. General Thaxma became her unlikely friend and advocate, often telling the story of how a small human doctor had taught him that true strength came not from the power to destroy, but from the wisdom to preserve and protect. Years later, when asked about her famous duel, Alina would always insist that she hadn't won through superior fighting skill or advanced technology. She had won by doing what humans had always done best: adapting, learning, and finding unexpected solutions to impossible problems. The duel in the crystal arena became legendary throughout the galaxy, not as a story of human superiority, but as an example of what could be achieved when different species worked together, combining their unique strengths and perspectives to solve problems that neither could handle alone. And in the end, that was perhaps the most human victory of all. Asterisk.